Okay, I want to talk today about one of my favorite subjects, food programming and food marketing. So, programming around food basically means you are following someone else's diet or food plan because they got results, or you don't eat certain foods because you've heard that they're bad or you fear certain food groups, even when you don't have an allergy, a sensitivity, any other underlying issue why you couldn't digest that food, like bacteria or parasites or a hormone issue. It's really just coming from a place of fear and taking in someone else's ideas. And I see this a lot. People jump from diet plan to diet plan and they have no idea what's best for them. They're just trying what worked for somebody else. And quite frankly, we all have a different genetic makeup. We all have different needs for our nutrients. And there's a way to figure this out. You don't have to keep jumping around and following someone else's plan. But so many people are conditioned to do this and seek for these answers in someone else when really everything's just inside of you and you can test for this and figure it out. So that's food programming. The other piece of this, it's also kind of programming, is food marketing. And this is something I've been so interested in for a long time, but ever since I've been, actually this has come up at many points in my career, but I'm seeing it come full circle now that I'm seeing clients for holistic wellness and nutrition and whatnot. But there's a lot of marketing to make products that aren't food, that have a lot of preservatives and chemicals in them, seem really healthy. And so sometimes I'll see a client and they say, oh yeah, I eat really healthy, but I have all these issues and all these gut issues and hormone issues. And when I ask them to tell me their diet, a lot of times it's eating dairy-free coconut yogurt with gluten-free granola for breakfast, and then having gluten-free avocado toast for lunch, and having gluten-free pasta for dinner. And that's not food. I am so thankful that there's foods available that are sensitive to people with allergies or sensitivities, or who have gut problems and can't eat gluten or dairy or whatnot. That's great. But these are still treat foods. They're still highly processed. And there's a lot of companies out there that market things to make you think that they're healthy, and they're not. So if you're eating those things more than a few times a week, definitely more than once a day, and you're having digestive issues, you're eating a ton of processed foods. And you know, gluten-free stuff is replaced a lot of times by corn, which is highly inflammatory. Almonds, a highly allergic food that people are so sensitive to, and you're eating like cups of almonds in like a gluten-free pizza crust or a gluten-free bagel or whatnot. So it's just a lot to consume. Chickpea flour, same thing. Like, these are foods that are hard for people to process, and you're eating them in large quantities. And while it's great every once in a while, if you're doing this on the regular, it's probably doing more harm than good. And I don't blame people. Companies do a great job marketing these things, making them seem like they're super healthy. But, you know, a gluten-free donut is still a donut. A gluten-free bagel is still a bagel. It's not food. It's not healthy. It's good for an indulgence every once in a while. But it's just not. I mean, things like keto bread. If you're gonna do an extreme diet like keto and totally give up carbs, guess what? You're gonna give up bread. Like, this stuff is just so processed. And it's nice if you're feeling you're missing it, again, every once in a while. But when you're eating these things every day, no good for your gut. Yeah, still a lot of like not great things in there, a lot of sugars, etc. So, yeah, I see a lot of people promoting these kind of foods, and again, just not for everyday use. Another place, actually the first place I really thought about how food is marketed as healthy, was when I worked at UCLA and I had a slew of very young women with breast cancer who were all vegan and like taught yoga and were pretty healthy. And it was really perplexing to me. And so finally I said to one of them, I said, oh, well, you know, if you're vegan, you must just be eating a lot of like great fruits and vegetables, like a lot of plant-based stuff. And it doesn't make sense that you would then get cancer that's not inherited. And the response was that she was eating like most of her diet actually was like soy products and hot dogs that were vegan and, all highly processed vegan food and junk food, which is pretty different than a whole foods vegan diet, and certainly explains, if you're eating tons of chemicals, why you would end up getting cancer. But a lot of things that are vegan is marketed as, ooh, there's no animal products, this is really healthy. And it's not. And it's not to say that you can't have these things, but just realize that they're processed food. Anything in a package, anything that's altered beyond its natural state is processed and has chemicals that occur in that process. And I talked about protein powders the other day, and just in creating those, you're getting a lot of like heavy metals and other things that happen. So it's just to raise your awareness, have you be really careful about what you're buying. And sometimes it's hard not to be psycho over these things. But even the other day I was in Whole Foods getting a nut butter, and every single brand had like an inflammatory oil in it or sugar, or the almonds weren't organic. So there was like one brand out of 10 that, was actually good to eat. And you do the best with what you have, but when you can be empowered to make these better choices, I encourage you to see through the marketing, to see through the bullshit, and for the most part, like eat whole healthy foods and make better choices when you can.